Hi there, everybody. This is Pastor Charlie. Today's Wednesday, the 8th of November, and I'm here with a midweek reflection for you. And I'd like us to take a few moments today just to think back to Sunday when we got together and celebrated All Saints Sunday. And I preached a sermon on that day from the book of Revelation, chapter 7, when we read about John's vision of this great multitude. And we asked who this multitude is and why they were so hope-filled. At the end of every sermon that I preach for our digital service, I always put up several questions just to help our digital worshippers think through what I've been saying in the sermon. Those questions usually go out on Monday in our Monday Connect that follows up from our Sunday services. And I thought it would be good today if we just sort of took those questions and maybe I answered them myself. So the first question that we asked after the sermon was really about the role of the saints in our lives, the saints who have passed on the story of the gospel to us. And the question that I put up there was, how do you interpret the role of the saints in your own spiritual journey? And for me, I think you hear me say it quite a lot in my sermons as I preach. The role of the saints that have gone before me in my family and in my home church back in Northern Ireland really can't be underestimated. I am a good Methodist, I believe, in that I hold to the idea of God's prevenient grace. That before I had accepted Jesus into my heart for my own life, before I had become a Christian, God was already at work in my life by God's grace. And I think a huge part of that prevenient grace is God's work in my life through those saints. So I think about the saints that shaped my early years as part of my home church. I can think of Sunday school teachers. I can think of the ones who taught us memory verses and taught us the stories of the Bible. I can think of the people who just by being there each week and shaking a hand and saying hello and calling me by name, I can think of how they influenced my own Christian faith. Of course, for me on this All Saints Sunday, I was thinking in particular of my mum and again thinking of my dad, of my own parents. And again, you've heard me say often how important their role in shaping my spiritual life was and is. I think if they were here today, they really wouldn't say that they had done anything out of the ordinary, but I actually think that they did. You see, whenever I was baptized, they said that they would raise me in this Christian faith, that they would be a good example for me, that they would give me something to follow. And I think that they did that. They did that faithfully. They did it in their own way all of the days of my life. And I got to see that. And it's an example that I take to heart and that I take into my Christian faith. So the role of the saints in my spiritual journey is of central importance. As Will Willimon reminded us just a couple of weeks ago, we only know the story of the gospel because someone else passed it on to us. That's the role of the saints. And may it be so that you and me, we are all saints for someone else. And in years to come, someone will remember the example that we set, or a word that we spoke, or a way that we smiled or shook a hand or welcomed someone. That's our role. To be the saints of God in this world today and to pass on the story of the good news. The second question I posed was about hope, and it was about how hope plays a central role, or how the concept of hope plays a role in my spiritual life. I don't think Christianity's anything if it's not a religion that is totally and utterly founded on hope. It makes some quite ridiculous claims in terms of just day-to-day life. We believe that death is not the end. We believe that there is the hope of resurrection. We believe that every life that has gone astray can be restored because of the hope of the resurrection. And as we read off on Sunday in Revelation, we go through this life and we hold on tightly to a hope that this life, this 70-year, 80-year stretch is not the whole picture, that there's something beyond us here. And that is something that in the best of times and in the worst of times gives us hope in every circumstance. So when I'm going through my hardest days, I remember that this is not the whole picture, that there is a different day coming and that there's a place coming in the future. I can remember in the earliest days of the pandemic in one of my sermons just trying to preach a word of hope to this very camera, to you all who were listening, and to remind you that better days were ahead. Hope is right at the very center of who we are as Christians, and it is so important that we hold on to it. The third and final question was about misconceptions around the book of Revelation. And you were asked, how did you hear this in the sermon? Well, hopefully I was writing this sermon and hopefully it was coming across that I've certainly encountered these misconceptions of the book of Revelation, that we tend to get distracted by these images of beasts and all of the things that confuse us. And we've had so many people who try to attach meaning to this and that minor detail in the book of Revelation that what happens is we miss the central theme. The central theme, which is, like we read in Revelation chapter 7, to remember the hope of the gospel, that there's something to look forward to, that in the worst of times we can cling on to the promises of God, who has said that he is making a place for us and will take us there so that where he is, we may be also. It's also a word in Revelation which is a reminder, in hard times, you got to maintain a faithful witness. So when your Christianity is being tested, when your faith is being tested, when you feel like giving up, the word at the center of Revelation is not about end times and specific times and dates. It's actually about faithful discipleship in this world just as it is. And I think that's really important now. As things continue to play out in the Middle East, as the crisis is ongoing in the Ukraine, as we experience this season that we're in the world of divisions and debates and really not knowing how to work together anymore, the people of faith, the great multitude, all of the saints are called upon to maintain a faithful witness, which is faithful to the love of God, to the sacrificial generosity of God, and stays focused on the mission of God. Friends, I hope you heard that in our sermon on Sunday. I hope that you're challenged by it today. If you're going through difficult times, hold on, because hope never perishes, spoils, or fades. And maintain a faithful witness, because the world is watching and the world is waiting for folks like you and me who will remind them of hope and remind them of good news, and who will bear witness to that good news every single day. God bless you and take care.